What you up to, Adam?
Not much, man. Just working on a new video.
Oh yeah? What's it about?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but basically I'm taking like two teams of 5 characters each, and then I'm like ranking all the characters in order.
Oh, it's an Acceleracers video, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Of course. What else would it be?
So 99% of you are probably wondering, what is Acceleracers? Well, it was a series of Hot Wheels movies that was made as a sequel to the movie Hot Wheels World Race.
The show, as it's often referred to, centers around 2 teams of drivers, the Teku and the Metal Maniacs, competing against each other in alternate dimension racetracks while fighting against evil robots called racing drones.
Made in 2005, it was geared towards young kids, but explored darker themes as well. That, along with a cliffhanger ending, led to a small community of Acceleracers fans that are still active to this day.
For as fun as the action and track designs were, the best part of Acceleracers were the drivers themselves. And that is what we will be discussing today as we rank all 11 main characters from worst to best. And just as a warning, this list will be full of spoilers.
For this list, it will be based off the characters of the 2 teams throughout all of Acceleracers. However, for characters that were introduced in World Race, we will not be ignoring the events of Highway 35 when determining their placement. Although this is an Acceleracers video first and foremost, ignoring the original movie would be a disservice to the characters.
It's important to clarify that we will only be looking at characters who are explicitly listed as Teku or Metal Maniac. So no Kadeem, no Lonnie or Tesla or whoever else. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. You mad, bro? Nolo, just because you're the Teku leader, that doesn't make you a good character. Nobody likes an entitled brat, but it's especially bad when they have nothing to offset that entitlement. This 18-year-old man throws actual tantrums when he doesn't get his way.
What's he talking about?
He contributes almost nothing to Tesla's greater effort, and his rivalry with Tork is so one-sided the other 2 dimensions went the way of Z36. It's very obvious that throughout Acceleracers, Tork just really doesn't care to play Nolo's games, instead focusing on helping his own team. But we'll get to that a little later. To top it all off, the actual resolution between the characters is just so... well, I'll let Monkey explain it.
That's it? You guys have been fighting all this time? And that's it?
To give him some credit, Nolo did win an Acceleracharger and was the first to do so. To take away said credit, he only won because he was the last man standing, and the other drivers who have also won have so much more going for them. Now before all of you Nolo fans, that are definitely watching this video, get upset over his placement, this list is just our opinion, so don't come to our houses to avenge him. Besides, as I've said in a previous countdown, once you hit rock bottom, you can go no lower.
Never mind, his address is 35.
Wait, no! Cool.
Would you say Shirako is the meme of this series?
Does he have more speakers on his car than lines in the movies?
Fair enough.
But seriously though, Shirako doesn't really do anything meaningful until the end of the 3rd movie. What puts him above Nolo, however, is that he's more neutral than anything.
Look, we don't hate Shirako. In fact, we think he's hilarious.
Got a problem here.
What's wrong?
I can't get on the internet.
His entire identity is his music, which he uses as much for his own enjoyment as he does trolling Porkchop.
Then again, that may be his main source of enjoyment.
But the man has as many character traits as he has words in his vocabulary. Despite this, he's a genuinely good driver, with some crazy fast reactions.
For that reason, Shirako gets number 10.
Yes, we are completely serious right now.
So before you call foul, yes, Sparky counts. The official wiki lists him as a Metal Maniac. He was built by a Metal Maniac, and he is literally made of metal.
Now that we've established why he counts, you're probably wondering why he's 9th. Well, it's pretty simple. We love Sparky. He's a fun addition to the cast, yet while he somehow has even less words to say than Shirako, he actually has notable contributions.
Ironically, the only real thing Shirako ever contributed was helping Sparky. Meanwhile, Sparky himself gets Vert past the drones to follow Galorum, even if he does so by Fortnite dancing. What really lands Sparky this high, however, is how the others treat him. He may get on some nerves from time to time, but nobody ever objectifies him or treats him as a lesser being.
As well, when Vert took Sparky through the ultimate race, Galorum attempted to get into Vert's head by trying to make him doubt himself.
Why sacrifice yourself for Tesla?
Sparky drowns this out by turning on some music, keeping Vert's focus on the racing.
And speaking of contributions to racing, we see Sparky helping before he was even Sparky. When he was still the original drone version of himself, Karma uses him for racing simulations to learn about the drones and, by extension, learn the purpose of the racing realms themselves.
The drone's driving is very precise, like a machine. But there are some things it does perfectly.
Damn, Marky, what has prison done to you?
The new heel of the team is now that his brother doesn't work for Galorum anymore. Wild is a very rash driver that gets on everyone's nerves. He's quick to argue, unnecessarily violent, and even his own team doesn't respect him, especially when he became the leader.
Wild's hatred for Kurt is just as, if not more intensive than Nolo's hatred for Tork. The difference is that Wild's reason actually has weight.
If I told all I knew, it might have kept Marky out of prison, but it could have ruined me. So, I didn't say anything. He got 2 years.
Though, even in the World Race, Kurt was never really there for him.
Speaking of World Race, the Wild we know in Acceleracers is way better of a character than Marky was. Marky was just immature, and unlike Nolo, he didn't even have racing skills to back him up. In fact, Marky was probably the worst driver out of all the characters.
Nice work, Marky.
Although Wild himself is just an average driver, he's a good fighter and very resilient, which you can see after they ripped off his fucking arm.
Wild may be a douchebag, but he's a necessary douchebag. He's the source of some of the better conflicts, and we would be remiss not to mention that he's the driving force behind the better half of the fourth movie's plot.
He's not Teku, Kurt. But he's your brother. We're in.
You were twice the leader that Nolo ever was.
Vert was a hard one to rank because unlike the rest of the Highway 35 veterans, Vert did more in the World Race than he does in Acceleracers.
The Vert in World Race, besides being the main character, was a very clever driver. Vert is constantly pulling off something unorthodox, which he usually picks up on the fly. This makes sense as he was up against the best drivers in the world after just getting his license literal minutes before Tesla recruited him. In order to make up for this lack of experience, he compensates with some out-of-the-box thinking, using his prior non-driving experiences.
This leads a lot of fans to ask, what the heck happened in Acceleracers?
I don't know what's happening to me.
The Vert we see here feels like a totally different driver. A lot of people, Vert included, seem to believe his skills just diminished, that the surf rat is washed up. But I don't think that's the case. Going back to what we said about Nolo being entitled, he is seen suppressing Vert in the very first scene they are in.
I know the coast road better than anybody, Nolo. Dude.
And it isn't unreasonable to believe he's been doing this for a while before Acceleracers begins. Vert's strength in the World Race was never precise skill, but under Nolo's leadership, it's all he's allowed to rely on.
You can see this when he faces Galorum in the ultimate race at the end. Without any other drivers around, Vert once again utilizes his past experiences, along with Karma's wisdom, to keep up with her, even bringing out some of that old unorthodox racing when he drives off the track in the cliffside realm. While we're still on the topic of Nolo, Vert pulled off the entitled kid character way better. He starts off World Race as a complete tool to both Alec and his dad, but through interactions with other team leaders throughout the movie, he slowly changes how he thinks about himself, gaining the respect of all the leaders by the end.
Sadly, for all of this, what keeps him low is that these good points are still mostly from World Race. And like we said before, this list is about Acceleracers first.
I just came back to get a few things. Is that a new motorcycle?
Yeah, it's just borrowed. My car got banged up a little.
Now this is how a leader should be. Tork and the Next Century were probably the closest calls on this list, to the point where they traded places multiple times in the planning phase for this project. The leader of the Metal Maniacs, Tork is as tough on the outside as he is kind on the inside.
Help!
Taro, this is Tork. It's up to you to win this thing. I'm going after Monkey.
Tork is the definition of a selfless leader, helping out his team in many scenes, such as when he flew through space to save Porkchop from a black hole. The Metal Maniacs all have respect for him, trusting his calls even when they disagree. This is especially clear with their motto.
Welded.
Despite his infuriation toward Nolo's self-centered antics, Tork is a big enough man to put aside their differences and save Nolo's life. And let's not forget, it was Nolo's beef with Tork and unwillingness to admit defeat that got him captured in the first place. And the last point I want to bring up before we move on, compared to Nolo and even Wild, Tork only pulls the "I'm the leader" card once. And it's to shut up Wild.
We may not have talked about him nearly as much as lower characters, but that's because he doesn't need as many words to express what makes him great.
Will that satisfy the Metal Maniacs?
Good enough?
That won't prove anything.
I'm the leader of the Maniacs. I said it's good enough.
And this is how a redemption arc should be. Outcasted for helping the enemy in World Race, and then branded for it during the events of Acceleracers, Kurt culminates 2 years worth of mistakes into setting the record straight on the kind of person he is.
We referred to Wild before as the new heel, now let's talk about the original. Back in Highway 35, while other drivers were motivated by their own ego, a love for the sport, or a duty to others, Kurt's motivation was fueled by malice and distrust. Under the alias Z36, Kurt stops at nothing to win the race, not for money, but to stop Tesla from getting the wheel of power, even going so far as to sabotage the other drivers with traps and explosives.
A shortcut. Cut short.
Now once again working for Tesla after realizing Glorum is, well, a death robot, Kurt is forced to live with his past in Acceleracers. Throughout the first 3 movies, Kurt has a somewhat subtle role, not contributing very much, yet always being a part of the current events. Where he really shines, though, is in the 4th movie, The Ultimate Race.
After his brother was lost in the junk realm, Kurt, like Vert before him, insisted that he would go back to save him.
Even if you could go back, it would be useless. Your brother has been captured by the drones.
In an ironic turn of events, Tesla's own attempt to dissuade Kurt provides him the very intel he needed to hatch a plan. Sick of the Doctor's lies and half-truths, and with his distaste at an all-time high, Kurt summons the drivers from both sides far from the Acceladrome. He successfully convinces 7 of the 8 other drivers to help him, with the downtrodden Vert being the only one to bow out.
While Kurt does have one of the best overall story arcs, his driving skills are just alright. He's not a bad driver by any means, none of the Acceleracers drivers are bad at driving, but he never really pulls off anything too crazy, besides his big plan. Yes, he's consistent, but not as much as some others.
Maybe you just have trouble trusting people. Maybe you think they're all like you.
In a series full of a bunch of lunatics racing each other, it's good to have a level head to balance it out.
Put up like, can I park right here? Fresh from the pit. Engine sounds nice with the new V6, and my kicks is clean. And I mean when I drive by, watch me lean.
Being the sole female among the drivers, it would have been easy to make Karma the token, but the writers had more respect than that. Karma is the most composed and most intelligent of the drivers. Vert and even Shirako may show more quick wit behind the wheel, but Karma demonstrates a deeper level of grounded intellect. Furthermore, she is a meticulous perfectionist and is willing to stay up very late to squeeze in just a little more practice.
Not good enough.
Karma is without a doubt the most consistent driver. Using her expansive driving knowledge, Karma races every realm with an almost professional style, only truly slipping up when she runs into a giant stone golem, which, to be fair, No amount of real-world driving can prepare you for that. While amazing on the driving side, her contributions to the story are a little on the low side. She does have some big moments though, such as her theory on the racing realms, which she then uses to help Taro. But these moments are outnumbered by other drivers.
You think you could keep the drones busy?
I know I can.
Karma is also the most respected among the drivers. She's implied to be the oldest, or at least to have the most seniority of the Teku. She had a personal relationship with Tone, the previous leader before Nolo, and is the only one willing to stand up to his BS.
Tone crashed because he made a mistake.
Tone didn't make mistakes.
Stop pretending, Nolo.
Meanwhile, she wins the respect of the Metal Maniacs through her interactions with Tork and Taro, and even managed to win Tesla's respect, likely due to her aforementioned theory. Even if Tesla rejected it at first.
Best Teku, hands down. Never one
without the other.
As our intro to this segment implies, Monkey and Porkchop feel incomplete unless they are together. Their interactions are so integral that having a separate section for each one would be redundant. For that reason, while we will still be talking about each character's individual traits, we have combined the two sections into one.
We will get to the dynamic duo shortly, but first let's talk about Monkey on his own. It's easy to write off Mr. McClurg at first glance, but doing so only shows that you aren't looking in the right places.
Hey, the name's Monkey.
Monkey may be far from the best behind the wheel, but he is irreplaceable under the hood. His most obvious contribution is being Sparky's creator, but that's far from the only impact he has made. One of his more subtle contributions is in the creation of Nitrox 3.5. After a failed test run with Tork, Monkey was able to troubleshoot, solve, and implement the necessary changes to his formula in time for the Water Realm. We all credit the Water Realm speedrun to Taro and Karma, but let's not forget that it was Monkey's fuel that got Taro back through the portal in the first place.
Not only does Monkey have the most contributions out of any individual driver, but he's also the comic relief character, and a good one at that. His interactions with other characters range from hilariously awkward to almost Looney Tunes hijinks. He really does live up to his nickname, and is an overall fantastic addition to the cast. While we could have tied Monkey and Porkchop for second, we would be lying if we said we didn't think Porkchop deserved the spot more.
Whereas Monkey contributes more through less direct methods, Porkchop shines most in the moment-to-moment. Like Tork, Porkchop always has the well-being of his teammates, especially Monkey, at the forefront of his mind. Porkchop has saved by far the most other drivers, Teku and Maniac alike. When Monkey got captured by the sweeper, Porkchop insisted on going into the realm after him. Though Lonnie may have shut him down, nobody could stop him when 3 of his teammates had their backs to the wall. In an act of ultimate selflessness, Porkchop turns his beloved semi-truck into a full-on kamikaze. And may I remind you, that would not have been possible if not for Mitch rigging the truck with a booster and EDR.
How many times do I gotta tell this guy? It's Monkey.
Wild may act like he's the toughest, but where he excels in technique, Porkchop is the winner in raw bulk. Porkchop's strength feats throughout the movies are insane, from handling cars with ease, swinging an anchor like a lasso, to punching the head off an armored drone so hard it shattered the window of an armored carrier. He punched his head through bulletproof glass. Not to mention, he's a freaking tank, as evidenced when he gets launched into metal barrels at least 70 miles per hour while only being lightly injured.
Porkchop and Monkey are already fantastic characters on their own, but to borrow a line from the Autarch, they're the tie for how the two play off of each other.
Hey, Monkey Man, hand me that anchor chain.
What do you have an anchor chain for?
My anchor?
They're far more than just a joke reel, though. Monkey and Porkchop have easily the tightest relationship of any two characters, with Porkchop's entire reason for coming being that he heard somebody had hurt Monkey.
Who did this to you?
It's clear in many scenes that the two genuinely care for each other and frequently show some of the most emotion of any two characters in relation to one another.
So you mean you don't like to go swimming? Or maybe you just never learned how?
I'm afraid of water, alright? Very afraid.
How come?
Well, my daddy, see, he drowned when I was a little boy.
Oh. You know, everybody's afraid of something. Look at me, I'm afraid of everything.
No other character represents both Highway 35 and Acceleracers so well. And to ski down Mount Everest twice. For those watching that have seen the movies, this should come as no surprise. For those of you who don't know who Taro is, oh boy do we have a lot to go into. In Highway 35, Taro was easily one of, if not the best driver out of all the racers. He showed time and time again that he was more than capable of racing through the different legs, with the movie showing constant interactions between him and his opponents. He's also one of the first characters that Vert gains the respect of, as well as having the very first dialogue between the two drivers in the movies.
What would you do if you had that kind of money?
I do, and I've done it.
As you can tell from his clips, he is a man of few words, though not as few as some other entries. While never really taking center stage during the story, he had constant contributions to the races overall.
Unlike the other returning leaders, however, Taro remains consistent in both his abilities and his character in the transition to Acceleracers. Well, where it counts. In regards to Taro's role in Acceleracers, it's really just more of the same. Taro is tied with Kurt for the most rounds raced of any driver, and is just as consistent as Karma in his execution. Taro may seemingly get into trouble more, but it's almost always due to circumstances beyond his control. Almost always. Much like his Metal Maniac teammates, Taro is frequently shown putting others before himself, even in World Race. Makes me wonder if they take after him.
So now that you know what kind of character he is, you're probably wondering why he got the top spot. Well, it's a lot of things, but overall, everyone loves Taro. His catchphrase of "I'm gonna pass" is so intertwined with the movies that they would be incomplete without him saying it. His blunt lines often give off a comedic tone, leading to some of the best dialogue.
You think maybe one of us is on the wrong track? Taro! Can you hear me, Taro?
Are you gonna talk to this entire race?
And you know what? Taro is a fucking badass. He's just such a cool character that rocks a car that just screams how hot it really is. I could be here all day referencing his scenes, but I'll let one scene speak for not only us, but the entire Acceleracers community.
Let's do it.
This is the best scene in all 5 movies. Period. And there is a damn good reason it's so iconic. But there's more to it than just being epic. Taro's speedrun through the water realm is important for multiple reasons. Most notably, in learning how to enter the drone's headquarters, albeit unwillingly, he allowed for Kurt to develop his rescue plan later down the road. And speaking of development, this is the scene where his relationship with Karma really starts.
This scene is badass. Taro has 20 minutes to race the whole water realm. Everyone else is already out at this point, and he still has an Acceleracharger. He has to make it back, or Tesla is going to take his biggest hit yet. As we saw earlier with Vert, if you drive too fast, you're going to hydroplane, so Taro has to hit that perfect in between. All of this tension is backed up by a song that would seem at first to perfectly represent the Metal Maniacs, but is a song that is now exclusively tied to Taro. A small detail I like to point out is when Vert barely makes it out of the Storm Realm, he loses half of the beloved Diora too. When Taro barely makes it out of the Water Realm though, he only loses a bit off his fender, showing a clear skill difference between the two drivers. On top of all of this is the first scene that brings the two teams together. Every other driver is watching him do this, and they all want him to succeed. Everyone knows that Taro is an amazing driver, but will he still make it in time? Even Shirako takes off his headphones! Shirako takes off his headphones!
As I was saying, this is where Taro and Karma's relationship really starts coming into its own. Taro gets the girl in both World Race and Acceleracers, but Karma always struck me as the better woman for a guy like Taro. Lonnie is a good character, but Karma and Taro's relationship has far more substance and conflict, even if Taro can be hard to talk to. And on the note of conflict, Taro is a freaking punching bag for both the drones and especially the silencers. Not to mention, his luck with technology makes Crow Bronwyn look like a lottery winner. Taro's skills, personality, and overall presence make him more than qualified for the #1 spot. And if he had anything to say to the previous 10 entries, I think we all know what it would be.
I'm gonna pass you.
before this video ends, I just had something I wanted to say. I've always loved the Acceleracers and Highway 35 franchises, but I've never contributed to the community in any form. When Adam and I thought of this idea, I was super excited to do my part. All I have to say about this is, thank you. Thank you to all the people in the community that have allowed this series to be remembered for this long. You guys are the reason we are doing this video. We may never get Acceleracers 5, but the moment we all give up on that dream is the moment Acceleracers is forgotten.
I've been Atom Bacon.
And I've been Azoor.
And thank you for watching.